The station putting local first. This is a KTSM 9 News half-hour special. Striking Gold with UTEP President Diana Natalicio.
Welcome to the University of Texas at El Paso. After 30 years at the helm, a chapter in this university's history comes to a close with Dr. Diana Natalicio stepping down as president, a move she announced May 2018. Natalicio is UTEP's first woman president and the longest-serving president in the school's history, a woman who has shaped education in the borderland through her first-hand experience.
I went to elementary school, which was a really good school, and then I went to high school, and it was not a very good school. It was a school for blue-collar kids, and they had no high aspirations for us.
After graduating high school at 17, Diana Natalicio, then Diana Seedhoff, put her secretarial skills to work in her hometown of St. Louis, Missouri.
I worked as a switchboard operator. I was Lily Tomlin of Nordberg Manufacturing, and I answered switchboard calls and connected them and all of that. And after a month, I just realized this is not possible. I cannot live my life with this box.
Attending St. Louis University and graduating with a bachelor's in Spanish, Natalicio's introduction into the Latin American culture began with a Fulbright scholarship to Brazil and a scholarship for a master's in Portugal before returning to Austin for her PhD in linguistics.
I was married at the time, and my then husband and I were looking for two academic jobs, which is hard to do.
The decision narrowing down to Staten Island or El Paso. Once in the borderland, the plan being to stay only for a year.
We were going back and forth to Juarez twice a day sometimes, go to eat, go to shop, go to the mercado, do all kinds of stuff. And the idea of living in two countries at the same time was just phenomenal. I just loved it.
And so a legacy began. When Dr. Natalicio began her tenure as president of the university in 1988, she had two particular goals she wanted to accomplish before leaving. First, to have UTEP mirror its demographic, and second, for it to become a research institution. UTEP attained a coveted R1 designation as a top-tier doctoral university in the Carnegie classification January 2019, joining the ranks of universities like Stanford, MIT, and California, Berkeley. However, these goals were no easy task. Natalicio says it took years to begin recruiting El Paso students and then providing them with the best possible education. On the heels of its recent designation, a new research building is being constructed on the southeast corner of University Avenue and Sumble Drive to support the continued growth of UTEP's research agenda for years to come, of course keeping with the established Bhutanese architecture. For 103 years, this hill overlooking the Rio Grande and Ciudad Juarez has been home to the University of Texas at El Paso. But UTEP's story does not start here. It begins 2 years before that across town.
The original campus was located on the east side of El Paso, close to Fort Bliss. The first two buildings out there were bought from a military institute that had gone under.
A dormitory on the left and the main classroom building on the right. A humble beginning, later consumed by a fire in 1916.
The legislature appropriates more money so that we can build a new building, and they relocate us.
Stephen Howard Worrell, the dean at the time, choosing the current location, overlooking Sunset Heights and downtown El Paso. His wife Catherine suggesting the facade from a National Geographic magazine.
She had an old edition, 1914, April, that she went and pulled out of a stack at the home she was at and recommended to the architect.
The first 5 buildings, which still stand, built by Henry Trost.
We're fortunate that the style architecture really goes well with Southwest. It has a lot of qualities that remind me of the Pueblos. Thick walls.
High inset windows and deep overhangs, a design now incorporated throughout all buildings on campus. Architects are not only mimicking the architectural style of the Himalayan kingdom of Bhutan, but honoring it. The university maintains a relationship with the country through a scholarship program which brings students from Bhutan to UTEP. In fact, the only Bhutanese structure of its kind found outside of Bhutan can be found at UTEP Centennial Plaza with the Lakong, which was gifted to the United States as a part of the Smithsonian Festival in 2015, the year the event showcased both Bhutan and Texas. UTEP architects say it was a challenge to reassemble.
We decided at a campus level, because we have this relationship with that country, that we wanted to do it in a manner which they did it. Which they first do is have a groundbreaking ceremony, and they go back and have to look at the astrological auspicious elements and find a day and a time on that day when you actually ask Mother Earth to borrow her land.
UTEP worked with the Bhutanese government to determine that. Architects also had to make modifications to their way of construction to follow Bhutanese customs, to include the types of materials used and the direction in which doors would be facing. A modern tradition at UTEP, literally revolving around the Bhutanese culture, is the Chorten statue outside the Undergraduate Learning Center. Students circle around it clockwise for good luck before tests. The university also began with a different name, first opening its doors in 1914 to 27 students as the State School of Mines and Metallurgy in El Paso. In 1927, enrollment really began to grow after El Paso's junior college merged with the College of Mines, bringing enrollment to 400 students at the time. The college would then go through several other changes in name until finally becoming the University of Texas at El Paso in 1967. That College of Mines over time would evolve into UTEP's now engineering program. Students first painted an M for miners on the Franklin foothills in the 1920s. It's one of the longest running traditions in the nation, known as TCM Day, now 100 years strong. For this year's celebration in March, students serenaded Dr. Diana Natalicio.
I just think the school spirit that I think a lot of locals think we don't have. They have some assumptions of what they're going to experience at the university, and I think TCM Day is quite the opposite. It'll live in people's minds.
By the way, the last mining student graduated from the Texas College of Mines in the 60s. The tradition also pays tribute to the patron saint for engineers, St. Patrick. Coming up, Hoover House history, a look inside the UTEP president's residence. Then to the home of the miners, how Sun Bowl Stadium came to be, plus the renovations fans will walk into next year. And touching base with Dr. Natalicio on the dream job she would have wanted had she not pursued a career in education. Another place that opens its doors for UTEP events is the Hoover House. The historic house is not only home to the UTEP president, but to traditions and occasions.
The house, and there's some photographs actually just inside the front door that show the house just after it was built. And the women had on long black dresses, and I mean, it's a long time ago.
In 1917, by the then mayor of the city, Richard Dudley, the 14-room house was designed by Gibson and Robertson and is now entrusted to the university.
It was the only house around here, and this was a mesa. I mean, it was like any other mesa in the city.
Now nestled in the Kern Place neighborhood, a few blocks away from the university, the Hoover House has become a sense of pride and enjoyment for students attending pool parties, patio luncheons, and award ceremony dinners.
It's their house too, and I always tell them, I'm not living in this beautiful residence because I got rich and bought it. I'm living here because I got an education and somebody invited me to live here. And that's the power of education.
According to local historians, the home was originally built with an estimated cost of $40,000. It was purchased by Thomas Fernandez Blanco in 1930 from Mayor Dudley's widow, eventually going into receivership for back taxes, which is when it was purchased by R.T. Hoover for $14,000 in 1944. Another iconic venue is Sun Bowl Stadium, which in 2017 was named one of the most scenic college stadiums by USA Today. The county of El Paso, which was leasing the land to UTEP at the time, helped build the stadium in 1963, inside the arroyo between the two hills it's embedded in today. Currently, $15 million worth of renovations are upgrading the press box, adding luxury suites and club-level seating. It's all expected to be completed for the start of the 2020 season. And as its name suggests, Sun Bowl Stadium is home to the annual Sun Bowl. But the first ever bowl game wasn't played here. It was played at El Paso High School's Jones Stadium, with the El Paso All-Stars defeating the Rangers 25-21. The first teams to ever play a Sun Bowl at the university at what was then known as Kidd Field were Texas Tech and West Virginia in 1938. The Sun Bowl Association organizes the annual Sun Bowl every December 31st. Up next, the program that almost never was. What convinced Dr. Natalicio to keep intercollegiate sports at UTEP and why it was at risk of being cut. Plus, Champion Circle, a visit to Don Haskins' home for a walk down memory lane with his wife and children. And the story behind the bun, how the image of Natalicio's hairstyle became an iconic logo. Had Dr. Natalicio not dedicated her career to education, she says she probably would have worked to become the owner of a baseball team. Ironic considering UTEP doesn't have one. She says that was always a bummer. The St. Louis Cardinal fan says her love of baseball began since she was a little girl, when televisions weren't around, so radio was king. Her favorite player, Stan Musial, evident from her collection inside the Hoover House study.
When I came here, and especially after I became president, people would want to give me something, and what they always thought of was baseball. And so a lot of the collection, I've not bought any baseballs ever, but I have Hank Aaron and I have all these very famous players because people very generously gave them to me.
Natalicio unexpectedly met Stan Musial when she was a part-time tutor and unknowingly showed up to his house to tutor his daughter. When people think UTEP athletics, they think basketball. Football has been the university's biggest revenue generator for years, but with the team going 1-23 in the last 2 seasons, that income hasn't been very strong, according to Dr. Natalicio, who says she originally wanted to eliminate intercollegiate sports at UTEP. Here's why she didn't.
I said that for a while, and then I realized just how important the athletic program is to the community. It's a sense of pride. A lot of kids know UTEP football or basketball. That's one of the ways that kids in the schools here know the university, and they love to go to a game and stuff like that. So I think, you know, it is important. It's more important than I would have imagined.
Natalicio says technology has made attendance at games difficult since fans can watch the game from the comfort of their home, on TV or online. Natalicio says athletics is a challenge for institutions like UTEP because of the amount of money that goes into the department. Although basketball and football generate money for the school, the rest of the sports are considered non-revenue sports. There also has to be a gender balance of as many women student athletes as there are women in the student population. For UTEP, that's 53%. Former UTEP athletic director Bob Stoll says he, along with Natalicio, came up with a 5-year strategic plan during his time at UTEP to make the university more appealing to athletes.
The big thing was to build some facilities because it was very difficult to attract student athletes and coaches with the facilities that we had because we had nothing. So we, thanks to Larry Durham's first major gift, we built the Durham Center. Then we built the Foster Stevens basketball facility and the Helen of Troy baseball or softball facility. So amongst actually redoing all the facilities there.
Another way the university makes money is by winning games, which is why making UTEP a competitive university was important. A big source of pride within the UTEP athletics community and their fan base is in the 1966 Texas Western men's basketball team, now known as UTEP. The Miners upset Kentucky 72-65 in the national championship game, remaining as the only Division I men's basketball national championship in the state of Texas. The Miners were coached by Hall of Famer Don Haskins, who started 5 black players in the game. The first team with an all-black starting lineup to win an NCAA national championship. The team inspiring the book and film, Glory Road.
It was awesome, and I thought they did a wonderful job, and they were very accurate too, in so many ways. But it was a thrill. I can't even describe what a thrill it was.
From the court to the big screen, it's been the journey of a lifetime, but a long ways away from Don and Mary Haskins' humble beginnings.
Don and I met when he was playing basketball at Oklahoma State years and years ago. And then I followed him on his journey coaching high school, and we ended up here in El Paso.
All the way from El Paso.
Haskins remembering that championship game like it was yesterday.
Oh, it was unbelievable. You know, I couldn't believe it was happening, but it was. and we accepted it and came back to El Paso happy and proud.
The Haskins living and breathing UTEP basketball.
We lived in Miners Hall when we first lived here, and then he came back home one day and said, well, I've got good news, I've got a raise. And I said, well, good. He said, we're going to get to move out of Miners Hall. And I said, what? I didn't want to leave Miners Hall.
Even after moving off campus.
We were coming here Christmas morning, and it's usually, let's get this over with. And because he was going to practice, and then he was going to another one at 12 and another one at 6. So holidays were, they were, because they were in the middle of his season. And, we knew that. So that was part of the deal. But it was, watching games and being a part of that, it was, it's harder. Wins were great and losses were tough.
Raising 4 boys, all bred as miners.
He was the most competitive person I've ever known. I mean, as a kid, you don't know any better. But he was just dad. He didn't see him much during the day.
Haskins believing in a team not many others believed in, regardless of the racial tensions of the time, but it wasn't easy.
I remember that he had made comments on, I wish we would finish second, because there was the hate mail.
Not sending a political message, simply playing his best players. Coming up, a year of laughs, how the students, faculty, and staff at UTEP are saying thank you for 30. Plus, will she stay or will she go? Natalicio's retirement plans when she officially steps down. Dr. Diana Natalicio has not only been an influential leader for UTEP, but for El Paso as well, recognized nationwide for her dedication to education. This is how the community is saying thank you for 30.
I always say it's my best angle, I think it's what represents me best.
And becoming the face, if you will, of her 30-year tenure at UTEP, an iconic hairstyle appearing in photos of her first years at the university.
I've loved really the fun that we've had with it. I've loved the t-shirts and the billboards and stuff like that.
Sparking a movement with one photograph.
There was a stool and then there was a camera, and so I sat on the stool and I faced the camera. And he said, no, I want you to turn around. And I said, really? And he said, yes, I want to take the back of your head. And I said, well, nobody's ever asked me to do that before, but why not?
The concept itself came from the University of Communications. They got in touch with me, and based on what the director said, they contacted a couple of artists to see their renditions, but it was mine that was actually selected.
Having been named one of Time Magazine's most influential people in the world in 2016, Natalicio is no stranger to the national stage, but is much more comfortable on a different one, shaking the hands of grads, saying that's her biggest accomplishment.
On behalf of the more than 90,000 minor alumni that they will join today, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank you for all that you have done and all that you continue to do for this university and for the community and the students we serve.
An end to an era, but Dr. Diana Natalicio won't be far. She's decided to stay in El Paso to assist the university and incoming President Heather Wilson if needed, but not before vacationing in Portugal, where she says this crazy journey began. That does it for our KTSM special on Natalicio's 30 years at UTEP. With photojournalists Ruben Espinosa and Johnny Munoz, I'm Estefania Safer. Picks up, miners.